General Kenobi, ladies and gentlemen. He certainly is a bold one, if I may say so myself. So today, we got a couple of things. First thing on the list, General Kenobi, the Negotiator. We have the full kit revealed today, and we finally got confirmation of how we're going to unlock this ship. That leak that we talked about last week is 100% true, so you guys already got a little heads up on how that's going to happen. And lastly, it looks like they're again teasing Grievous's capital ship coming in the game in the near future. So without further ado, let's get into it, talk about what the Negotiator is all about, and we will get this show on the road, believe me. So before we go into the actual kit details, let's talk about how we're going to unlock this ship. Now, last week I gave you guys the first scoop as to how the ship was going to be unlocked. There was a leak circulating around in the community, and it was right. As they say right here, the Negotiator will be unlocked with guild event tokens Mark II currency from the new Geonosis and Territory battle map. So think of it kind of like you're farming Wampa or Hermit Yoda, but instead of using the currency you get from the Hoth battles, you're using the currency solely from Geonosis Territory battles, and they don't really say anything else beyond this, so I'm guessing from start to finish, you're going to have to just use your tokens to unlock and 7-star the Negotiator capital ship, and there won't be any sort of preliminary event like Darth Malik, who then turned into the guild event store for you to farm with your Hoth battle currency. Long story short, if you've been following the channel for a while and following this news very closely with the Negotiator, as well as how difficult Geonosis Territory battles is going to be, the Negotiator is going to be a ship that's going to take quite a long time to farm as well. We saw how much currency was needed to get like 10 blueprints of the capital ship, so it looks like it's going to take a little bit of time, especially because none of us are going to perfect Geonosis Territory battles right from the get-go. And we'll come back to this in a second. This has some minor teasers of the Grievous's malevolence, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's actually go and read into the kit for what he has to offer, and he is definitely a more offensive version of Mace Windu's capital ship, and there are some things that are probably going to slow down. I mean, the thing we have to keep in mind is that Akbar and the Falcon, they dominated Fleet Arena since the December or January, whenever the ship came out, and it's been pretty much landlocked with those ships only. But we have some things that look like they're going to counter some aspects of a rebel fleet, and especially all those attacks out of turn that we see. So here we go. Let's use the basic ability. Let's read what it does. Impeccable timing. Deal physical damage to a target enemy and grant target ally critical hit immunity for 2 turns, and if you hit a target lock enemy, you inflict offense down for 2 turns. Now, the main highlight here is that being able to use your basic and grant critical hit immunity is actually kind of nice, because especially with all this heavy critical damage coming onto your ships, mostly from all these rebel fleets running around right now, having that extra layer of protection to minimize critical hits is kind of an important attribute. I mean, just to quickly show you one reason why critical damage immunity is important, like let's look at the Falcon, because that's kind of the #1 ship right now in the game. If you get a critical hit on someone, the Falcon applies a target lock on the enemy. Then, as we also see with the Falcon, he gives a lot of critical damage up, and it's a very high critical chance critical damage team. So having this extra critical hit immunity that kind of gets sprinkled throughout the battle, it's going to help you try to withstand the damage coming from Falcon, and as well as all of his fellow rebel allies. All right, Republic protection, cooldown of 5. One thing that happens quite often is that it's a lot of your ships get blown away really quickly in the Fleet Arena meta right now. This is going to try to help mitigate how fast your ships are being destroyed. As we see here, grant the target ally offense up for 3 turns, and all Republic allies gain unending loyalty for 3 turns, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented, and grant all allies protection up, 25% protection up for 2 turns. And what unending loyalty does is that you can't be defeated during the first enemy attack, which includes assist that would otherwise defeat this ship. When reduced to 1% health, you gain stealth and protection up 50% for 2 turns, and this buff expires. So think of it like this. Sometimes you get those like triple assist things going on, and let's say that first hit, let's say from the Falcon or whoever it is, it could have taken out the ship, and you get the extra couple of assists that come in. The ship is not going to die off. It's going to get one last chance to stay in the battle. It's going to hide under stealth, so it can't get directly targeted unless there's an AoE ability being spammed. So it's meant to be a way for your ships not to die off as fast, because that's another problem with all these mass assists, especially from the Ghost, for example, or the Phantom being able to call multiple ships, and then the Falcon calling ships with its basic attack. It turns into an assisting nightmare. So this is going to be one way to help your ship survive the battle a lot longer compared to what would happen otherwise. And then mobilize, cooldown of 4, deal physical damage to all enemies. And here's the thing that kind of screamed anti-rebel ships: daze them for 2 turns. Even Genosians attack out of turn quite a lot, but the main thing right now is going to be your rebel ship. So dazing prevents a lot more attacks out of turn, and then you get to inflict target lock for 2 turns on 2 random enemies that aren't already target locked. So it's going to make sure it doesn't repeat the target lock. It's going to try to spread as much target lock as possible, and a big chunk of turn meter gain, 30% turn meter gain. That's a huge boost right there. And grant all Galactic Republic allies Valor for 2 turns. Then all allies with Valor are called to assist. Valor works slightly differently compared to Mace Windu, and they describe how Valor works more down below. We'll get there in a second. Don't you worry, ladies and gentlemen. But let's read the ultimate ability: a cooldown of 12. Y-Wing Assault. The animations are fantastic. Oh, I love how this looks. I know we didn't see too much of the Negotiator action and the prequels as well as the Clone Wars too much. We saw a little bit of it, so it's kind of cool seeing Kenobi's ship come to life. That's one thing nice about Galaxy of Heroes. They're able to put a lot more work into things that maybe didn't get too much attention in the Star Wars universe. So here we go. What does the ultimate ability do? And what it's going to do is deal damage to all enemies. So think of kind of like Tarkin's finishing ultimate ability. And you get to place 3 concussion mines on them for 1 turn and increase all enemy cooldowns to max. This excludes capital ships. So wow, that's a big cooldown increase right there. And these concussion mines can't be dispelled, prevented, or resisted, and this ability can't be evaded. So if you think you can evade these concussion mines, they're going to hit you, and then once it hits you, you can't dispel it, prevent it, and it can't be resisted. So it's going to be a locked debuff on these ships, and this ability can't be evaded and starts on a cooldown of 12. So kind of like it's kind of a bigger version of what Thrawn does. When Thrawn uses his ultimate ability, he defeats the ship instantly, and he increases the capital ship of the opposing fleet cooldown up by a little bit. But Kenobi, he's just gonna increase all these ships' cooldowns by a ton. And in case you need a little refresher as to what concussion mines do, as we see here, the B-28 bomber, I believe, was the first one to kind of introduce it. Concussion mines, what they do is that you'll deal damage equal to 10% of the target's max health, and it's gonna daze the target as well for 2 turns when it explodes. And as we saw this concussion mines could not be dispelled as well. So bringing that in over to Kenobi's capital ship. So if there's any ships that happen to survive this massive Y-Wing assault, they only have a little bit of time to kind of do a couple more things before all those concussion mines explode. And as we saw, each of these concussion mines are going to do 10% max health, 10% damage based on the max health of the enemy. So 30% max health when all these concussion mines go off. So it's kind of like a follow-up attack in case anyone kind of survives the onslaught. And then the dazes, kind of like we talked about earlier, will help prevent any extra bonus attacks that are going to be happening out of turn. And lastly, here's some of the Valor talk that we have here and some Anakin Skywalker synergy. Republic Determination. All allies have plus 25% potency, and Galactic Republic allies have plus 25% accuracy. It doesn't sound anything too crazy on paper, but it's going to help you make sure you land those target locks more frequently, buff immunities, all those other lovely things, because Ahsoka and Anakin, they got a lot of big abilities that could use some help with some potency. All enemies, here's a big one. All enemies, big one right here, guys, deal 25% less damage when attacking out of turn. Wow. I wonder what fleets attack out of turn so much. And Galactic Republic allies deal 10% more damage for each other ally with Valor. So that's where the Valor comes in, and it's doubled for Jedi. So characters like Ahsoka as well as Anakin Skywalker, it's not even constricted to Galactic Republic Jedi. It's just Jedi in general will be able to do 20% more damage for each other ally with Valor. So if there's, let's say, 5 allies with Valor, boom, 100% extra damage for Anakin Skywalker, and Anakin Skywalker already has a very heavy dealing damage ship. And if Anakin's Starfighter is present at the start of the battle, boom, he gets unending loyalty right away for 3 turns. So you can't take out Anakin right away. And remember, he's going to be probably the biggest damage dealer on a Kenobi fleet. And if you can't take out Anakin right away, that's going to be a big problem for the opposing fleet. And the reinforcement bonus, if you call someone in to reinforce, reinforcements gain critical damage up for 2 turns. So imagine this, you call an Anakin to reinforce. Let's just say hypothetically that's the best thing to do. He's going to come in, there's a lot of Valor on the field. He's going to get 20% more damage for each other ally with Valor because he's a Jedi. And so that means with that critical damage up, let's say 100% extra damage or whatever the case may be, Anakin is going to be so important for this fleet. He's been lingering in the game for quite a long time, and he definitely seems to be key if you want to get out those big punches. Now they have this developer intentions for the Negotiator, and the first thing to really point out is their teaser. regarding the Malevolence. So there was this question, what scenes and moments were you trying to capture with the Negotiator? And they're like, I don't believe the Negotiator is ever in the prequels, and it's a fairly rare sight in the Clone Wars, but Season 1's Malevolence arc has a ton of great scenes with the full fleet. If I'm asking about the Negotiator, why are you bringing up the Malevolence? It's like saying, hey, how do you like this potato? And you're like, I don't know, I never had a potato, but I really like tomatoes. It's like, that's not the answer to the question. So either it's just a bad answer, or they're just kind of hinting that, hey, you're going to see a lot more of the Malevolence going forward, because it's also pairs with this post we saw a while ago, because we got this nice deep discussion as to where ships are going in the future, because ships is the stalest game mode in the game, period. And they said this: with the upcoming Geonosis territory battle, we're going to release a new capital ship. I wish we could show more benevolence and tell you what's exactly coming, but negotiations are underway about when we will share the news. So, and also, if you pair that with the developer interview I broke down for you guys that was on that podcast, the Escape podcast a while ago, they were also playing around with these words in the podcast. So negotiations means Kenobi, and with that question that they answered a second ago and this playful word benevolence and the podcast, I'm pretty much 100% certain at this point, let's say 99.9% certain, that Grievous is going to be getting a capital ship whenever the light side territory battles for Geonosis comes around. That's going to wrap it up for today's video, ladies and gentlemen. Overall, I love the kit, I love the animation, and it's nice to see that we have, it looks like, to be another alternative for Fleet Arena. It looks like it won't be all about Akbar and the Han's Millennium Falcon. It's probably going to be Kenobi, as well as Han's Millennium Falcon, and maybe later on, when General Grievous' Malevolence possibly comes into the game, we'll have a lot more stuff going out in Fleet Arena rather than going up against Akbar over and over again. And it's nice being able to grind for something. I know there's that aspect where it sucks not getting something the very second it comes into the game, but for a lot of people, it's really exciting to kind of grind for a while, work hard, especially with your guild, to unlock something really cool like this. Like, I remember it took me a year or something like that to unlock Darth Vader because it was such a challenge back then. Then they made it easier to get. So I'm excited to actually work for something that in this game. It will be a hindrance for guilds that cannot compete in Geonosis territory battles. Just know that your people in your guild, they're going to be behind in the Fleet Arena probably, and if you don't have extra ships, it might be harder to participate in territory wars as well as Grand Arena. So that's the downside. We'll see how all this pans out. Guys, comment down below on your thoughts on the ship synergy ideas, any downsides, upsides to all this. Be sure to like, subscribe so you're not missing a thing, and I will talk to you lovely people very, very soon. Peace out, everyone.